the things that the college started out from was a strong sense of the value of self-care, of giving patients back some of the controls of their own health. And a project emerged out of the Department of Health called Integrating Self-Care into Family Practice, which we ran from Michael's practice in Devon, also from Bromley by Bow with Sam in East London, and two university collaborators, including the University of Westminster. And one of the outputs of that project, funded by the Department of Health, was there's the partners there. You probably won't see much of it at all. So, was a new resource, a web resource called the Self-Care Library. It's put together largely by work done by Professor David Peters and Dr. Karen Pilkington at University of Westminster with a small team, and they assiduously pulled together the research base for self-care under 12 common conditions that people could usefully help looking after themselves with. And that was the Self-Care Library, and it was online until quite recently. However, the timing of this project, it was Alan Johnson, who was Secretary of State at the time, unfortunately bumped into the credit crunch. And so the promise of ongoing support from the department evaporated, and we were left with a resource which had to be kept free to the public, but with no means of support. So it receded into the back hard disks of two or three of us, and we paid for the annual subs out of our own overdrafts. But there was no real incentive or no real mechanism for updating it. The other thing was that it was on a platform which was pre-smartphone, pre-tablet, and so very out of date. And it was done by a programmer. This is something that I tactfully suggest you avoid. If there's any programmers here, please apologise for this, because of course you're locked into their program. The new self-care library is now ready, and it's called the Self-Care Toolkit, and it's on a WordPress program. The first place to go and find it, and this is being launched next week, but because you're so nice, you're actually being allowed to have a look at it before it's ready. And I just ask you, please, to be very generous, because there are gaps in it still. It'll be finished by Wednesday evening next week, in time for the Social Prescribing Conference. But again, we'll go and just see it. This is the homepage of the Our Health Directory. And that is all it is, ourhealth.directory. You can look at it on your mobile phone right now. It's all alive. As I said, not quite complete, so this is even pre-beta. Our Health Directory is in a sense a portal of places where people can go. So at the bottom of the page you get sections here: eating well, nature, being creative, mind, body work, and exercise, under each of which there are reliable places you can go as a person who needs help or wants to take control of the help too. So this is not medical services, this is services that are geared to the community. Some of the content here is to be filled in, so that you'll find gaps if you look at these particular pages. But the key item in this is in the middle of the homepage, the Self-Care Toolkit. And that is the new Self-Care Library, and has been completely revamped. It's not entirely updated in terms of the research base, and we're encouraging anybody who looks at this to input their own connections, their links to new systematic reviews, particularly in any particular area that you spot or have an interest in. There's a place you can just leave that connection, and we will, as fast as we can, incorporate it. We want this to be a new college community project. It is very patient-facing, it's very community-facing. As you'll see, it's got 12 conditions. You see 3 at the bottom here: back pain, depression, and fatigue. And I've got the fatigue one. I was going to show a picture of Ivan Illich. but I'll spare that bit. It's an extraordinary bit of work that has now been revived. The good news is the Department of Health has begun to show interest in it again, and so we may get a second bite of that cherry, but we'll first get it up, throw the stuff at the wall, see what sticks, and I would very much welcome your input into it as it goes. But remember, it's not properly ready until next week, so be sympathetic and generous. Thank you.